afternoon, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And welcome to a day late, a week late, a couple hours late. This is going to be our review, a short review of episodes 9 and 10 of House of the Dragon, The Green Council and The Black Queen.
Right.
A little housekeeping from our point of view. We went on vacation for a week. We went to a music festival. We went to Disneyland. We did some movies. We did some museums. One of them was about movies. And so we were getting caught up on everything that we missed. We felt that like we needed to talk about these last two episodes, even if it's just for a few minutes, not a full breakdown like we normally do, but just kind of to put a cap on this season as a whole.
Wow. Okay, it's always a sign of a good movie or show when you're thinking about it the next day.
Yeah.
And I was definitely thinking about it today and thinking about, all the people in the beginning, like when they were doing the backstory of the girls when they were younger and, Viserys, kind of how we got there and, how this isn't my Game of Thrones and,
Right.
And it's like, if we hadn't had that, this last episode would not have hit anywhere near as hard as it did.
Yeah.
And yeah, like that. And the last episode was the last two. It may just be because we watched them both together, but I really felt like the last two, we are fully into Game of Thrones mode now.
Right. It's definitely got that event watching feel to it now.
Yeah.
Because everybody is talking about it the next day.
Yeah.
And if you don't watch the episodes, you're going to get spoiled on some stuff.
Yep.
And it's.
By the way, spoilers.
No, if you haven't watched it by this point in time, you clicked on our video that's 2 days late. It's on you. You ever watched a movie and thought, like, this is just visually amazing, and I just love the way it looks, and the colors are amazing? Well, our friends over at Movie Palette have come up with these great pieces of art that you could put up on your wall to show your love of movies without really necessarily being overly dramatic about it. Think of a movie barcode kind of thing, where you can look at the colors and know what the movie is, but it's very, very subtle. If you know us, we are into Tron Legacy. The music and the lights and the color itself is just amazing. Just to give you an idea of what they have. Go to moviepalette.com. Find your own personal favorite movie, your movie color palette, and have it hang on your wall. At checkout, put in Pop Culture 15 to get 15% off. Thank you, Movie Palette, for sponsoring this video. Link is in the description down below. And don't forget, use Pop Culture 15 at checkout to get 15% off your order. What they did in the Green Council episode, where they went to go find Aemon, and there was the race to find Aemon, and there was Alicent with Kristen Cole and Aemond going to look for Aegon. Like that whole kind of story about Edmund. That's what I want to say. Him, like, pretty much just telling Kristen the whole time, like, I should be the king. He's not ready. He doesn't want it. It should be me.
Yeah.
And we were like, that's bad. And then you kind of figure out what Aegon has been doing in his free time.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, maybe it's not such a bad idea.
Right. This is the, to quote Master and Commander, the lesser of two weevils.
Yes. They're both just bad choices.
Yeah.
But then you have Otto with his own guys, the twins, out looking for Edmund and Aegon. Freaking Game of Thrones. And one of the brothers coming to the realization that we're all screwed.
Yeah.
And so they're having Kristen and one of the brothers are having a full-on fight while Edmund and Aegon. Edmund goes and tries to stop Aegon from leaving.
Yeah.
And so that's all going. The other brother kind of watches and leaves, and you're like, where is he going? And like, there's just that whole kind of feel of that episode of their all the Greens start rounding up everybody who's could be connected to Rhaenyra
Right.
and the Targaryens.
It's
and,
basic. I mean, they could have renamed it the Race to Leave too. Because there was the twin who just kind of just disappears and you don't see or hear from him. There's the
Rhaenys trying to get out.
right. Well, I wasn't there yet.
Okay. Sorry.
The house. Which house was he?
Yes.
That was like, nope, I'm not gonna bend the knee, and then kind of realizing that, okay, if I don't, I'm dead. And so then he does. Well, he basically screwed himself by waiting at all. He should have just play dumb, bend the knee, and then get out.
Yep.
So they caught him, and then Rhaenys ultimately does get out, but it's not looking good for her either. They've got her locked up, and and the twin comes back and and breaks her out, and she's like, "Where are we going? What's going on?" Because she's just thinking to be beheaded or whatever.
Right. Because he's a gold cloak.
Right.
Yeah.
Or a white cloak.
King's
Guard. Yeah. And then she's like, I need to get my dragon. And he's like, no, we don't have time for that. And then she kind of gets swept up into the crowd. They bring, all the peasants in who aren't going to say anything about it because they're just, just don't kill me. And she sneaks out, and gets her dragon. So she takes off and then
kills a bunch of people in the process.
Yeah.
Whatever they.
I mean, it was the peasants, so that's probably not good. But because they didn't do anything, they were just there because they were rounded up. And then the twin gets out with the crown.
It
was amazing.
Which they don't really do until the next episode.
Yeah.
But the rush to get Aegon crowned.
Yeah.
Like, they had to go find him. He got some food and a shower, and they threw him into the dragon dragon pit with all the peasants, and they made a point of showing the dagger, like you're getting coronated with the dagger and Darklaw. It's like the traditional Targaryen sword. Some struggling guys, and then they use the Conqueror's crown instead of Viserys's crown. Like, they use all the symbols of his authority, and then when they got done with this, and then they baptized him, or they crowned him with the words of the Seven, with and so they're mixing the two. All the symbolism is there, and then when he turns around, the crowd starts chanting for him and cheering for him. You've just empowered a psychopath.
Yeah.
Which is just gonna make things worse.
Yeah.
And it was just a gut punch to know that Alicent misinterpreted everything that Viserys said and everything he tried to do in the final 20 years of his life. And she comes in and mishears one conversation. And she takes that, and now the realm is just ready on the brink of war.
Right. Well, yeah, they're no longer on the brink.
Well, that was the end of that episode, and then the next episode, we get Rhaenyra getting the news that Viserys is dead, and we get Daemon calling out that the Greens killed him, that he was in good health when I saw him last. They killed him, and it's like, well, you see about that. He wasn't in. You were just being...
Yeah, but, I mean, he's rallying the troops.
Yes.
He's motivating people to, because he sees the writing on the wall. He understands that this is not going to be good, and so to say they killed him, that's going to make everyone around him be like, well, let's go get him.
Yeah.
Instead of him just going, yeah, they want to take Rhaenyra's crown. And they might, more of them might be like, I don't really care who's king or
Right.
queen.
If you killed the king.
Yeah, that's a little different. Yeah.
Absolutely. That whole sequence leads to Rhaenyra having a
Premature.
That's the premature birth because of the stress of the situation. She's 5 months pregnant.
No, I think she's like 7 months pregnant. Yeah.
And so she's gets all of this information in this huge stress ball piled on her with the death of her father and the realization she's now queen and all of that going on.
And now they're trying to take it from her,
and they're trying to take it from her.
Yeah,
and so she gets into labor, and then the baby it looked like the umbilical cord was around his neck.
Yeah.
And so the baby is dead. So now they're trying to mourn the baby. And while that's all going on, Daemon's got the war council together. Like he's been planning this for a while.
Yeah. So I want to take a minute to talk about a badass bitch.
Right.
She is in labor. It's a tough labor. I think the maester at one point said that the baby was breech. She's trying to, she's in a lot of pain. She's trying to think clearly, which is, anybody's ever been in any kind of pain. I don't care whether you've had a baby or not. If you've been in any kind of immense pain, it's hard to think about anything other than that pain. She's trying to think. She's trying to strategize. She's trying to, what's my next move? What do I have to do? She's trying to prepare if she doesn't make it, because her mom didn't make it when her baby was breech. Prepare her kids, make sure they understand that, they are next in line, the older two, and deliver a baby. And she delivers that baby all by herself.
Right.
Her maids are like standing there, let us help you. And she's just like, I've got to work through some shit. I'm just going to deliver this
right
all by myself.
It's so pimp. And it's almost like she's what Emily. No, not Emily Clark. I just had it up. Emma Darcy did with just conveying the anger and the pain that she's going through was amazing. But the character of Rhaenyra showing her strength by standing alone instead of having somebody come and help her through the process is so many different layers of, like you were saying, just badassdom. But it's something that she has to deal with on her own to get through the process. And if anybody helps her, I think, at least I'm projecting now, I think that she feels like she's going to be lost like her mother. And so,
yeah, I mean, there's definitely some don't let the freaking maesters near me or they'll cut me open and then I'm dead
the
for
maidens,
sure.
The handmaidens were all trying to help her too. And she was just, I'm going to do this on my terms, which is how she has been as a character the entire way.
Yeah, definitely.
But when she takes the point to tell Jace, like, if I don't if I don't make it, you're next.
Yep.
And he goes into the war room and kind of calls Daemon on his war tactics while his mom is in the room giving birth to his brother or sister, and dad's in here making war plans. Like, this is not the time.
Yeah.
and so I've always liked him as a character, Jace.
Yeah.
As a character, because he's always the one who's been trying to learn the High Valyrian to be a good king, which is I pointed out at the moment, that's just good. That's a good parenting on her part. Like, hey, listen, this could go bad, but it's been good parenting from when he's a child.
Yeah,
because he's ready.
Yeah, his whole life. Yeah, he is the exact opposite of Aegon.
Right.
He is like looks wise, Aegon is pale and very, very blonde, white blonde hair, and Jace is, dark complected, dark hair, well mannered versus, they find him in the worst section of Flea Bottom,
Right.
high and, sleeping with whatever. And yeah, so they're very
They're,
polar opposite.
they're so opposite, and I really just love the way it's being portrayed between the two families of a loving, caring, wanting to be there for her kids, being a good parent, and Allison on the other side, who the kids are a commodity that she has to use and trade because that's what she learned from Otto.
Yeah.
And
she just doesn't.
I don't think she ever wanted kids.
She didn't want any of it.
Yeah,
she's
that's true.
like everything from the beginning has been Otto, and she's, it's frustrating because you get those glimmers of the better person she could have been.
Yeah.
And like at the small council when she was like, "Wait a minute, you guys have been planning this all behind my back," and she was, furious, but she's also mourning her husband and just like doesn't have the spoons left to give about this,
right?
Because it's going to happen either way. So she's just trying to get to him first,
right?
And it's frustrating because you're like, there's a glimmer of a good person in there, and then she gets swept all up into everything.
Yeah,
and just kind of loses herself
there's
again.
even a scene in the previous episode, in the Green Council episode, where Otto says, "Well played that you got the Aegon first."
Yeah,
and she's kind of just gave Otto the business of I'm beyond you now.
Yeah,
like I'm yes, I'm playing the game. And I'm playing it my way. And
yeah,
you're not going to tell me how to play it.
Finally, it's probably too late.
Yeah, it's too late. But she was the big proponent of pushing everything out and getting Aegon on the throne before there's even a chance to have Rhaenyra find out and show up with the dragons and everything.
Right.
They have a funeral scene for the baby. And there's tension between Daemon and Rhaenyra. But they don't deal with it until later. And during the funeral scene, the other twin shows up with the crown. I stood up like that. Just that's amazing because it's just so out of left field. We just watched Aegon get crowned.
Yeah.
Now it was a different crown,
right?
But we just saw him get crowned, and you forget about Viserys's crown.
Right.
I love that crown.
The one that and Alicent put it on his wrapping, whatever.
Right.
They prepared him.
But him showing up and like I swore a fealty to the crown. You are the crown. Here's the crown. You should be queen.
Yeah.
But that part of the scene is amazing. But then he hands it to Daemon. Because Daemon's the one who came down while Rhaenyra stayed up at the pyre. And Daemon took it and looked at it. And took a moment to go, huh. And it's always been projected that he's always wanted to be the crown. I don't think he's always wanted to be the crown. I think he's always thought he would be good at being crowned.
No, I think he just feels slighted. I don't think he wants to be crowned. He likes his life. He likes being able to do whatever he wants. But he just felt slighted.
Yeah.
And if Viserys had maybe, paid a little more attention to him or been a better brother, it might not have gone that way.
Right.
Included him a little bit more or whatever. And I think he was just acting out. I don't think, and it also, so he crowns Rhaenyra, which I wonder, because in the episode before the Green Council, the dinner or whatever, when Viserys kind of stumbles and his crown falls off, we've all since learned that was ad-libbed, right? That Matt Smith went over and picked it up and gave it back to him or put it back on his head. And so I wonder if they, because of that scene, they wrote this scene in as a mirror of Daemon always, crowning or putting the crown on these people's heads.
Yeah. It was such a joyous moment in the wake of the tragedy of losing a child
and her father. So
and
now
her
she's lost a
father.
child and her father, and had her throne taken from her,
Right.
all in like a day.
Right, and it's so triumphant for me because it's, again, like you're saying, it's Damon. It's Damon who's the
Yeah.
one. He's holding the crown. It'd been nothing for him to crown himself and cut her down, and everybody would be like, okay, I guess he's king.
Yeah.
Like, but he does actually care for her.
Yeah.
We get Corlys is alive.
Yay!
Who
Yeah,
knew?
that was kind of weird because he was like talked about him, and he's over there, and he's not doing well. He's not going to make it, and then all of a sudden, hey, look,
he's back. And Corlys's brother is the one who kind of leads this down this path of questioning the actual legitimacy of who the crown should go to and stuff. But with Corlys being there, he's very. I'm going to make all the Star Wars references. He's very Han Solo. He's always been on the run, even though or on the go. On to the next adventure, on to the next conquest, on to the next job.
Yeah.
That he forgets how to be, and he loves his wife. He loves Rhaenyra, but he forgets that he needs to be there for her as much as she's trying to be there for him.
Yeah.
After losing both children.
Right.
And so he runs away for 6 years and leaves her alone.
Right.
And he's like, you know what? You were right. It's not about the crown. It's not about getting on the throne. It's not about this. I had to go deal with this. And she kind of calls him on his poo.
Yeah.
Like, I needed you to be here with me. I was dealing with it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just kind of a nice little moment of, like, I messed up. But then she's also cleaning his wound during the whole time.
Yeah.
She still loves him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not that they don't love each other, but he he kind of pulls a Rip Van Winkle, right? He like wakes up and all of a sudden, or whatever, suddenly he's there, and he's like, I had to go deal with this stuff. They have their little moment, and then she's like, well, uh, we have sided with Rhaenyra, and he's like, that woman isn't, the queen, and blah blah blah, and she's like, so that's your brother talking, and by the way, he's dead. He's like, let me just drop a whole bunch of what's been happening on you.
And I love that she didn't hide it. Damon took his head.
Yep.
And he was like, and he's like, he deserved it.
Yeah. Yeah.
He deserved it.
Yeah.
He was being a dick.
Yep. And so then he's like, okay, I guess we're on Team Rhaenyra.
The big thing from that scene there, though, was her saying, everyone in, they're calling it the Black Council, I think is what they're calling it.
Sure.
Everybody in the Black Council, I'm going with that until...
Yeah, I think it was the Black Council and the Green Council.
Right. So everybody in the Black Council is calling to go to war.
Yeah.
And she's the only one who's saying, hold on.
Yeah.
Let's have a moment.
Yep.
Let's figure this out. Let's figure out our allies. She's the only one holding everything together and keeping the peace right now.
Right.
And that was the kind of the thing. And then when Corlys walks in, like Viserys walked in to defend Rhaenyra in a previous episode, and then he walks in to defend her and says, you have my fleet.
Yeah.
Tell us where we're at.
Yeah.
And then she's the one who takes over the meeting, even though Damon was the one who was kind of running the meetings before.
Right.
She starts to show
because she just had a baby.
She has had a baby, and there's a lot of stuff going on. But that's kind of his support of her and Rhaenys' support of her.
Right.
And, is a huge thing.
Right.
And he even says, like, we've retaken the Narrow Sea, or I think it's the Narrow Sea. They retake the Narrow Sea. They have the defenses there. Unlike last time, we are set. They cannot take supplies to
King's Landing.
Yep. So like it's like, we are set for this. And then Rhaenyra is like, she's like, I'll go patrol on Dragonback.
Rhaenys.
Rhaenys. So many freaking names. But it just...
Well, yeah, because Rhaenyra's like, okay, we still have these 3 households that swore to me,
Starks, I'm trying to remember. the Starks, the Baratheons, and I don't remember what the other one is.
Yeah. So she's like, she had been trying to tell them before um, Corlys came in that we need to find out where we are with these people because they swore to me, but that was a long time ago. And, some of the guys who swore to me are dead now, and it's their sons or their heirs that have taken over, and we need to know where we're at. And they were like, no, we need to go to war or whatever. And so then when Corlys comes in, they kind of calms everything down. Then she's like, okay, we have the Narrow Sea, we have that. We still need to know where these three are. And so that's when Rhaenys is like, well, I'll go fly the Gap or whatever it was and patrol. And then she sent the boys.
They were sent ravens. And
right.
Jace said, dragons are faster.
Right.
And we can negotiate with the people.
Right.
And so Jace went to Winterfell and whatever the other one was. And Luke went to the Baratheon stronghold.
Right. Right. Which was not.
Right. So the whole Baratheon, the Baratheon son, who's like, he shows up. Luke shows up, and Aemon is
he's doing an awesome, the kid's 13.
Right.
And,
right.
Okay, yeah, now I need to get on my dragon. I need to go someplace I've never been before. I need to talk to, in a storm. Yeah. I need to talk to people I've never talked to before. This guy's a king, and, I gotta be the man.
Right.
But I'm 13 years old. Right. He was holding it together. I'd have been
I was
crapping my pants.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as I saw Edmund's gigantic dragon sitting there, I'd have been like, peace, I'm getting back on my dragon, I'm going home, I'll tell Mom.
Yeah.
They've already been there.
And they have a discussion, and he, you come empty-handed, other than my father made this oath, and are you going to marry one of my daughters? And he's like, I'm already betrothed to somebody else.
Yeah.
And Edmund showed up with a random, I don't know who it was, whatever, to marry off to him. So there's a whole exchange there, and then Edmund is calls him strong.
Yeah. You're a strong lad.
You're strong. But he throws his dagger at him and tells him, I still want your eye.
Yeah.
And they have an exchange, and Lord Baratheon stops it. He's like, that's not going to happen in my hall.
Yeah.
He's an envoy. He's a herald. He came in peace. He has visitors' rights, guest rights, and you can go back to your mom and tell her that we've already made a decision this way.
Yeah.
So he actually still has some. The new Lord Baratheon has some honor in the system of what's going on.
Right. He's not gonna uphold what his dad said, but he's at least gonna continue to honor the ways.
The ways. There are guidelines. And then we get the full-on dragon fight between, it's chase more than it is anything else.
Yeah.
Between the two of them, and Aemon's dragon. Again, I don't remember I can struggle with all the names. You want me to remember dragon names? But Aemon's dragon eats.
Is it Aemon or is it Edmund?
Edmund, Aemon.
We've called it.
It's Aemon, Daemon, Dimon, Rhaenyra, Rhaenerys, Jaehaerys, Jararis, Dave, Bob, Josh, Joe.
We've called him every name.
I'll just keep saying it until somebody says something else.
The kid without the eye.
There you go. The actual one that looks like Daemon.
He does, yeah.
But his dragon attacks against his will.
Yeah.
And kills Luke.
Yeah.
And Arjax, the other dragon.
Yeah. And I think that's, they have a psychic kind of whatever connection with their dragon, right? That's what keeps the dragon from eating them in the first place. And I think the dragon just, he knew this would be really bad if I killed him. This would be really bad. We're on
playfully playing with him.
I don't know how playful. I mean, he's trying to scare him at the very least, and deep down inside, this is what he wants. He wants he's been going after him constantly since it happened, which is fair. He took his eye,
Right.
but I think he understands this is going to be bad. Like, we're on the precipice of war, and if I actually killed this kid, there would be no precipice anymore. We've
Right,
gone off
right,
the cliff.
right.
But the dragon, all he feels is his emotion, right?
Right,
He's
right.
feeling his
And he's the third rider or fourth rider of that dragon.
yeah, because
So
he's an old dragon.
yeah.
So yeah, he just as soon as Luke left the castle where they all were, I was like, they better not kill him.
They better not.
And they
I
did.
like his performance though, right there, because his face is like, we fucked up. You know, he understands the moment of what just happened, even
Yeah.
if he was youthfully trying to bully
Yeah.
Luke. It still was. I've gone too far. Well, now this is going to be the final piece to kind of
Right.
get
Yeah.
us
Like
into
I
the
said,
war.
we're no longer standing on the
And-
precipice.
and-
We are at war.
and to give us the air to air fight between the dragons, dogfight, even though the fire didn't happen, like that is just a taste of what we're going to get for the dance of the dragons. So there's going to be the next 3 seasons.
Yeah, and it was really
It was
cool.
very, very well done. And then Damon finds out, and he goes and tells Rhaenyra. God damn it, Ray. And she kind of. They actually talked about it in the post. Like, she's lost her parents, she's lost a lover, but losing a child, that grief is heavier than everything else.
And again, in the span of 24 hours, I
Right.
mean, it may be longer, but this has been, a very short time.
Yeah.
She's lost her father and 2 children.
And 2 children. Yeah. Yeah. But when she
And when she went, she gave him the letter to when they were going, the scroll, whatever, and she kind of, like rubbed his hand a little bit with her pinky, it's okay, you'll do good, and then
yeah, it's so good. But her back to the camera, her grieving around the fire for a second, this like kind of balled up for a second, and then she stands up, and you've seen that look before. Dracarys.
Yep.
When Emily Clark had that look on her face, you were like, oh, it's about to go down.
Yeah.
And now when Emma Darcy does it, ooh, it's about to go down.
Yeah.
And so it was a nice like explanation point for the season as a whole, but also for this episode, was her face of, I'm going to burn it all to the ground.
Yeah.
And that's, we've been talking about throughout the entire series, a lot of the parallels that we got with the first few seasons of Game of Thrones, and just the way it's King's Landing and Winterfell, and like we know the table glows.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Oh, so cool. But just that kind of just the parallels, but that particular parallel of, we know what that expression is.
Right.
I don't know if it was on purpose, but it was definitely us as the audience going, oh, we know what that means.
Yeah. Any last bit of feeling that she has for Alicent and her family, it's gone.
We didn't even talk about the bridge scene.
When Otto shows up.
Otto shows up and like, you need to bend the knee, and you're not the real queen. And we've got, even if you're the rightful heir, we crowned him with all the actual physical things.
Yeah.
There's no denying it. Oh, and here's the page that you ripped out of the textbook just to kind of pull on her heartstrings.
Yep.
But it was just kind of, and again, a parallel to previously when they went to go get Daemon.
Yep.
And kind of,
and then her dragon shows up. But we have dragons.
They
have 7, I think, is what they said.
I think they said 7. The Hightowers have 3, and I think there's like 3 or 4 unclaimed.
Right.
And then Daemon made a point of saying, oh, by the way, I've been harvesting eggs for a while.
Right. And then
he's the one that's known that it's coming.
Before that very last scene, he goes down into the dragon whatever, and a very large black dragon was down there. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not versed enough in what all the dragons look like. I know the big one, and but I don't know if it was his or if this is a hatchling that he's
I,
been harboring
I
down
think
there.
this is an old. Again, we don't know, so be very nice in the comments. But this is another one of those old dragons who've been around for a long time that's just unclaimed. And him kind of going down there kind of feels like he's setting the groundwork for him to claim to have a comparable big weapon
Yeah,
compared to the other
but he
dragons.
already has a
But
dragon.
he already has a dragon. So what is that dragon? Like that was the conversation, that there's other dragons out there that are unclaimed.
Yeah,
And how many Targaryens are out there, and
Right.
Valerians. There was a bunch of Valerians around who can ride dragons too.
Yeah.
So that helps that the Valerians and Driftmark are on their side.
right. So the girls, who are Corlys and Rhaenys's granddaughters,
Yes.
could ride dragons. The boys already have theirs, but they could ride a couple. So
Yeah. So it's just it's very interesting how that all sets up. I want to talk about the season overall. We're actually doing really good considering we're doing 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I want to talk the season overall. Otto, Reese, Infans. I don't know how to say his last name. Fons.
Hyphens.
Deserves an Emmy nomination. Emma Darcy, Emilia Clarke, Matt Smith, Patty Constantine, all of them.
Emilia Clarke.
Not Emilia Clarke.
Emma Darcy.
Emma Darcy, and just talk amongst yourselves for a second. They all deserve at least nominations. I really honestly think that Olivia Cook. I really think Patty should be the one of everybody who should get the actual to actually get the win.
Yeah.
I think everybody was amazing, but what Patty was, his transition through the season, and that final scene, his death scene, is so amazing. And if you've ever seen Patty do interviews, that's not who he is in real life. He's a very kind of, he's in a punk band. He's just several of the episodes should be nominated for best director, best cinematography, best special effects, and all that kind of stuff. And they took a big swing with this series after many people being disappointed with the last few seasons of Game of Thrones. They took a really big swing going back and telling this story. The story is very compelling, but it's a big swing, and they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I think so.
My expectations were above average and the highness of what I expect everything to be here. I expected a little bit higher. Because I do love the last few seasons of Game of Thrones and what they did. So my expectations was higher than what they normally would, and they were way better than that.
Yeah, yep. It was amazing.
Yeah,
and I mean, my hope is that they can just hold the continuity, right? Hopefully, they have a roadmap for however many seasons that they're going to do, a beginning and an ending, and they're filling it in the middle, which a lot of TV shows have sort of learned, especially with Game of Thrones. They didn't expect it to be that big when it started, and then what's his face hadn't completed the books yet, and so then they're completely George R. R. Martin hadn't completed the books yet, and they're just completely off script, and now the train is just barreling down the tracks, and we have no
right, and George has said, George is directly involved in the making of this show, and Miguel Sapochnik is not coming back for season 2. The other gentleman who is actually running the show, Ryan Codell, is going to be, I believe, the showrunner for the second season. I think that's who it is. It's going to be for the second season, but Miguel's got a open checkbook from HBO, so he's going to go do his own thing, which I'm totally cool with. But George has said this is a 4 to 5 season story,
right,
And part of the thing too with is it's based off of Fire and Blood. Um, that book is written in universe from unreliable narrators,
Right.
and so they can play with changing things
Right.
because they're not set with this. This is the actual story. It's more specifically, this is the story as we heard it.
Right.
And so they have a little more leeway, which is going to allow them to change things and make the story easier to tell on the big screen compared to telling the story in the books.
Yeah. So his book is more like I don't at me, but I'm thinking of like his book is more like the Bible, like the actual Bible. It's told by at least the New Testament is many different people's
It's a very good way of putting it.
renditions of what happened, and we don't know other than what these people, because it's 2,000 years later, we don't know other than what these people have written down. And the show is more like we got in a time machine, went back, and are actually witnessing what really happened.
Yeah, it's a really good way of putting it. And I think that's why I think a lot of people are not like, that wasn't in the book, or that's different than the book. Like that hardness that we got from Game of Thrones, even from Jump, I think a lot of that has gone away because the few people were like, no, this is the way it should be. And then a lot of people came out and said, no, that book is from the point of view of not really knowing what the story is for sure.
Right. It's written way in the future with
Mushroom Mushroom is one of the main people who write the stories in the book, and Mushroom's the court jester, so he's going to have a spin on everything, as it is. So it's just that kind of conversation that's just it's like I think it's allowing this to be its own thing and still being embraced for enjoyment of the show and the book readers and the lore heads and all that stuff. And it's like that round table where everybody puts their swords in, and it's all like, I'm a book reader, and I'm a Game of Thrones TV show person, and I'm like, you ever seen the meme? There's a meme. Okay, I'm gonna explain this and we're done. Moviepalette.com, 15% off if you use Pop Culture 15. There's a meme, and it's an actual like D&D version of Knights of the Round Table.
Okay.
And so all the swords are pointing there, and then you go in, and then people are putting in all the different swords, and it's what we like. In the reason why we like this thing is it's because we're book readers and because we're this.
Okay. All right. Dumb. It was a long ways for
it makes complete sense in my head. We really love this season. We're really excited for season 2. No date on when that's going to happen. I don't even know if they're filming yet.
I would assume later next year at the earliest, if not the beginning of 2024.
That's the my one complaint about the Game of not one complaint. That's one of my major complaints of the previous, is that we had to wait 2 years between seasons, and then people got off on the rails of what they expected. And when we got to that season, and it didn't happen exactly the way,
live up to their mind hype.
Right. And so I'm hoping that they are already in the process of doing season 2. Yeah. So that's what I'm hoping. So that is our thoughts on the final 2 episodes of House of the Dragon and the season overall. Let us know what you thought of the series and the episodes and everything in the comments down below. Please be nice. That's a requirement around here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, follow us on all the social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Links are in the description down below. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.